How much have you raised sort of really pre-seed small checks, friends, family, associates, slash fools, slash really generous angels?
Okay, so we're talking like pre-seed amongst all the startups. I bet it's like $4 million, maybe a little bit more, just for the pre-seed. And we're not talking. I hate to distinguish professional investors, but those are the pass the hat style rounds where you're able to put $250,000, $100,000 checks together for some of these early ideas.
What was that like watching? Like, what have you learned? What are your observations through all of that?
And part of the reason that we've kind of designed and developed the education we have is there's a level of consistency amongst the failure points in raising capital. Failure point 1, which is probably an 80% failure point, is the pitch deck. I believe that 80% of people don't have what I would consider to be an investor viable pitch deck, right? Everything from 31 slides with a text-based manifesto to not identifying the TAM, to not quantifying the problem, size and severity. So what we've tried to do is say, how can we address these failure points, recognizing we can't make your idea fundable. So if you got the pitch deck, that's an 80% failure point. I would say a 50 to 60% failure point is the miscorrelation of your current stage with the investor pool that you're going to go out and try to get to. That's a huge one, right? Everybody is just like, I need to raise $3 million because I need this amount of runway, right? And they spend 6 months trying to pitch seed stage investors, and all of them say the same thing. Come back when you've got more traction. By that time, they're done. So that's a big one. And I spend a lot of time talking about how do you objectively align your milestone to your investment stage. That's a huge, huge piece. You don't have to overshoot it, right? The milestones are built for a reason. Each milestone is pretty specific. It's tough to get to milestone 1, but if you're tight there, you're going to have better conversations. You are going to be able to raise money. You're going to be able to further prove your hypothesis, and you're going to be able to create some leverage in your startup. Next is, how do I get to investors, right? So that would be another at least 50 to 70% failure point, which is, okay, I've identified the right investors. What do I say and how do I connect with them? So an elevator pitch is fairly formulaic, and it takes some honesty on the part of the founder, but that formula's got to hit. And you've got to be able to craft that nice formula to get it out there. That's just one piece. The second piece is investors have a bit of an unsaid scouting network. So investors are going to always look for deals that are brought in by known quantities, right? Whether it's another friend in tech, whether it's another investor, whether it's a friend at a VC-backed company. But those are the deals. And why wouldn't they, right? When a deal comes in with a certain level of social proof, focus on that deal, the attention they give that deal, the availability they make for that founder goes up exponentially. So the founder's ability to be able to look at all these different investors and create some connective tissue, whether it's through earned introductions, known introductions, whatever it might be, is a big piece of this game. Going into, Gmail and doing a mail merge and just spray and pray, it just doesn't work. So that's another massive failure point that we see, right? So if you kind of break them all out, those are all areas that we can address. We can help you create a kick-ass deck based on what you got. We can help you align your current stage of business with your funding stage. We can help you identify who's writing checks in that space, and we can help you understand what this outreach process is. It's hard, but what we decided to do is said, let's control what we can control. And those are areas where we can really help. And at the very least, you can go out and you can have a great deck. You can have probably the right raise or close to the right raise, right valuation. You know who you're going to be pitching, and you know best practices on how to get out to those folks.
You're saying, based on the experience of the successful founders that have raised, let's just take for granted they've got an idea that's worth funding and they're not completely out to lunch. There are a lot of people with some pretty pie-in-the-sky ideas. Not to say that we poo-poo those, but it just has to be appropriate in terms of, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's worthwhile of funding it as a startup, right? So we're past that stage, but you're saying the founders have got solid communication, a clear pitch deck, and it's aligned, and they're pitching the right investors at the right stage. And then they're putting in the work in terms of socialization, getting that social proof, those introductions. Those are the main things that you've seen have been the main contributors. If they've been points of failure, at the same time, they would be contributors to success.
Exactly right. And that's after working with, and this isn't a small data set. We've worked with over 10,000 founders in a fairly intimate context as far as, consulting. And those are the massive, massive roadblocks that most people face. I mean, out of 10,000, a handful have come in and had all those boxes checked, which should tell you a lot, because these are all generally smart, talented founders with pretty cool ideas, right? So
for sure,
you can't let an idea fail because the process is inappropriately followed or unknown. And that happens time and time again.